Happy New Year! So what's up everyone, it's your girl Brain Shanae, and today I'll be sharing with you my December wrap up. So if you want to know what I finished reading in the year of 2020, please stay tuned. And I am back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. So once again, Happy New Year, you guys. Goodbye, year 2020. Hello, year 2021. So literally, it's January 1st, today at least, that I'm filming this. So I really wanted to share with you all the books I read in December, and I was able to fulfill my reading goal on Goodreads, which was 40 books, but I read a total of 41. So the first book, or one of the books I read in December, that was Ray Bearer by Jordan Flaco. I love this book so much, I did its own review video. So if you want to know what I thought about this book and what I rated it, I will leave that video up above so you can check that out after you watch this one. The next book that I read in December was a book that I really wanted to read and possibly hoping to read the graphic novel this year, and that is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This is following a boy named Will who's pretty much going to the stages of fulfilling the rules of pretty much the streets. Of course, no snitching, no crying, and above all, pretty much get even with the person and take control, which is dealing with a gun related situation. And so with that, we're following Will, and he's going up this elevator, or going down an elevator, in order to pretty much take revenge on his brother's death and who he thinks killed his brother, Sean. Sean was his older brother, and now he's currently dead. He was shot as they were playing, I believe they were playing basketball, and he was one of the people that was shot. So as we're going through this, through the elevator, he's meeting people in the past. He's meeting his friend Danny, who was also killed. He's meeting his uncle, his dad. All these people were killed by a gunshot. And so as he's doing this, at the very end of the book, he also meets Sean, his brother, who was recently killed. And pretty much through this journey, Will is trying to figure out, what should I do? But like I said, as Sean, his older brother, comes onto the elevator with everyone else that has been killed by a gunshot, Will is mostly contemplating on if he's going to fulfill his duties and pretty much getting even. And so with that, it's like a certain amount of thinking, like, is it worth it? Because I know someone's going to get me as well. And should I be a part of all these people that have lost their lives and could have done something differently? So I feel like it gave you that perspective, and I love this. I love the fact that it was also written in verse, so I really loved it very much, to the point where I want to read the graphic novel, which will give you more of, like, I pictured in my mind of the elevator and Will and all the people in the elevator speaking to Will and everything, but I feel like with the graphic novel will definitely give me a better visual. So yeah, so I love this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, of course. So yeah, so this was another book that I read in December. The next book was an audiobook. It's called Zacora. That was is by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She had written Americana and Half of a Yellow Sun and How to Be a Feminist. She had written a few books. So with Zacora, this book had, or audiobook, just released this year. I was really interested in reading it. It was only like an hour and 50 minutes long as far as the audiobook goes, and I really enjoyed it. We're following Zacora and pretty much throughout her pregnancy, and she pretty much explains throughout her pregnancy what had happened prior to being pregnant, which her boyfriend that was her baby's dad, his name is Kwame. And so they have this relationship, and then she finally tells him, like, hey, I'm pregnant. And he's like, how is that possible? You're on the pill. And she's like, I told you that I stopped taking the pill because it's making me gain weight. And after that, he just stopped talking to her, and all communication ended. He did not want anything to do with him or the progression of her pregnancy, or just the baby in general. Had nothing want to do with it. And then she goes on and talks about how men do not understand women's bodies, the inner workings of women, and what they go through on a regular basis as far as their bodies, birth control, and childbirth. She also brings up the fact of, especially for African Americans, in America receive bad treatment as far as this comes to healthcare. And so there's a higher rate, a mortality rate of women dying while giving birth. Now for me, that had not happened to me, of course. I felt like my doctor really cared about me. And he also, he has brought in the world. He has pretty much was part of my birth, all three of my children when they were born. So he was there and I had no complications. So I think it's just, but still overall, there's still a high mortality rate as far as women, Black women giving birth and also, and dying while giving birth and in labor. So she brings up that as well, because that is a very, very serious topic that needs to be spoken and needs to be had, because that's one of the things that's been happening in America and it still is happening, and I feel like that needs to be brought up and has to be resolved immediately, because that's just really ridiculous how Black women are dying while in birth or in labor, and I feel like that's just not right. And the only reason why they're dying is because due to the health system and the healthcare system towards African American women and Black women in America. So Zacora brings that up in the book, and then she also brings up the fact that how men are oblivious to certain things of women's menstrual cycles and everything like that. So I really thought that was very fascinating. She also brings up the fact of childbirth, and that is painful, and then also just wanting to have a natural birth rather opposed to epidural. But then again, sometimes the epidural seems better than not having it. So she brings up that perspective. A lot of women do not want to have a natural birth due to the epidural, possibly affecting the child whatsoever. But I will say, like, for my daughter, I did have an epidural, but it didn't really take into effect until after I had my daughter. I had gotten it literally in the last minute, and it didn't take effect until after I had her. So literally I couldn't walk or whatever or get out of bed in order to go into my next room. But for my two sons that were born, I had an all-natural birth. It is a painful thing, and I feel like that's why women are so strong. We are powerful human beings on this planet, because we go through it all. We go through menstruals, we go through menopause, we go through childbirth, we go through it all. Our bodies are strong, and women in general are just amazing. And I feel like that also with Zacora, that is being brought up too. Women take on a lot of things, especially for their body, and we still keep pushing. So I rated that a 5 out of 5 stars. I definitely suggest you read it, or at least listening to the audiobook, because it was that good. So 5 out of 5 stars for Zacora. Next book, which I enjoyed so much, and I'm glad that I finally read it, and that is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. I rated this book for another 5 out of 5 stars because it was very good. It goes into the depths of Jacqueline, the author herself, about how she was raised, how she was constantly, how she kept moving from different place to place, didn't know where home was at first. First, she was from Columbus, Ohio, originally. Then her mother, she left her dad here in Columbus because her dad didn't want to leave Columbus. This is his home, which I'm located in Columbus, Ohio, if you didn't know that. But yeah, so Columbus, Ohio was his home, so he didn't leave his home, but her mom, Jacqueline's mom, wanted to move down to South Carolina in Greenville, and they lived in a small town in Nelsonville. So that's her second home. And then her mom wanted to venture out and no longer stay in the South, because most of her family was moving to the North in New York City. So eventually Jackie and her brother Hope and her sister Dell moved to New York with and as they go to New York, they also have a new brother named Roman. So you go through all these different things as far as the book, of how she was raised, how she was taught to learn how to read and write, her inspirations for writing, everything what have you, and how she was under the shadow of her big sister Odell, because she was one of like a star pupil in her classroom. She loved to read. She was just amazing, and a lot of teachers respected her bigger sister, and they always referenced her, "Oh, you're Odell's sister." That's how they always reference Jackie or Jacqueline. And Hope, he was great at science and everything like that, but he also was bullied because of his name was Hope, and a lot of people felt like Hope was a girl name. But I love the concept of her researching and knowing more about her family history. Now, and in America, Black people, African American people do not know their history, their ancestry, or anything like that. I feel like for Jackie to be able to go back and able to research and find things about her past and her family was just phenomenal, and I really want to do that myself and research on my family. But I love this book a lot. It was awesome. I loved how it was written in verse with her poems. I just loved it overall. And it just also deals with about being a Black girl as well in society and how you're looked upon. But she also talks about the value of friendship in the last part of this book, which I also really enjoyed. So 5 out of 5 stars for this book right here. And last but not least, this is a children's book that I read to my sons and my daughter, and they loved it so much, and that is I Promise by LeBron James. This was such a great book. I also love the very ending of the book where it pretty much talks about being accountable for your actions, also being respectful, and keeping a promise to yourself as to have expectations for yourself, and you are a great it goes into depths of having that, like I said, accountability, but also being aware of being a better you, of that you are enough, but in order to get this, you need to do this in order to do that. So you always have to keep building yourself up to greatness, which I love this book so much that I just love LeBron James as well as a person and also as an athlete. But even on the back, since he has started a school called the Akron, it's in Akron, and it says, like, on the back, it has pretty much everything that they say every morning. So it says, your promise. The I Promise School, which that's his school, was inspired by the big dreams of kids in my hometown and around the world. It is a place committed to helping them and their families reach their full potential. At the start of every school year and repeated every morning, all students make a set of promises to themselves, just like those in this book. Setting goals, working hard, and holding yourself accountable are the first steps to success. We're excited to have you join in this journey to achieve your goals. Here is our daily promise to get you started. Remember, nothing is given, everything is earned. And that was said by LeBron James. And then it goes to saying, I promise right here. So it says, I promise to go to school, to do all of my homework, to listen to my teachers because they will help me learn, to ask questions and find answers, to never give up no matter what, to always try my best, to be helpful and respectful to others, to live a healthy life by eating right and being active, to make good choices for myself, to have fun, and above all else, to finish school. Hashtag strive for greatness. So this is pretty much saying keeping promises to yourself in order to reach your goals or what you want to do in your life. So I love this book. I definitely keep reading it to my kids and they enjoyed it, but a 5 out of 5 stars to LeBron James. But that is it, you guys. That is my December wrap up. I read a total of 5 books, and I was able to achieve my Goodreads goal of reading 40 books, and I surpassed it with 1 book, so 41 books in total. But I'm glad that I was able to accomplish that. But these books were amazing, and I highly recommend them. And Zacora as well was a great audiobook, which I definitely recommend as well. But that is it, you guys. I really hoped you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching, you guys. And please, once again, Happy New Year. Stay healthy and stay safe. See ya.